Okay. So in today's session, we will talk about how to read SAS datasets from libraries. How to read SAS datasets from libraries, which are already existing in your libraries. We'll see how to read them. Give me 1 minute. I'm getting something. I'm sorry, guys. Actually, initial days it will little disturbance because people will be coming, so I need to guide you. Okay. Reading SAS data sets from libraries. Reading SAS data sets from libraries. So we'll see how to read SAS data sets from libraries. Let's take an example. Any example. Let's take for example payroll master. There is a data set. There is a data set in SAS user. SAS user is the library, and these are all default libraries as I explained you. These are all default. Yesterday I explained you. These are all default libraries. So in these default libraries, we will have sample files, and we can practice. These are all practice. I mean, for our practice, SAS has given a lot of default data sets. So you can practice your programs, or you can whatever concepts I teach, you can practice on these files. You have a lot of files. You have a lot of data, and this data comes along with SAS software when you install. So you have a lot of files. You have huge files as well in this data set. I mean, then some of the data set contains huge records. Will point you to all those data sets sometime later. I mean, sometime in near future. For the time being, let me open this uh, file or data set. There is a data set in the library SAS user, in which we have uh, date of birth, date of hire, employee ID, gender, job code, salary. You have total six variables. Date of birth, date of hire, employee ID, gender, job code, salary. Now, if you want to see the properties, let's say you wanted to check the properties of these variables. So you need to right click on this payroll master, this data set, just right click, and you'll a dialog box will open, and you click on the view columns. You will be able to see all the properties of a variable. So these are all properties of a variable. When I say properties, a variable will have a name, a variable will have a type, whether it is a character data type or a numeric data type, and it will have length, it will have formats. In formats, we will see all these formats in formats maybe in tomorrow's session, not today. So these are all properties. Name is a property, type is a property, length is a property, format is a property, in format is a property, label is a property. So these are all called properties of variables. So we can see the properties of all these variables here. Anyway, we'll discuss. It's a separate topic. We'll talk about properties in more detail sometime in future. Okay, and you can also see the metadata. Let's go to general. If you click on general, it will talk about what is the type of the file and which version of SAS you are using, how many rows it has, how many variables it has, and when was this data set created. It will talk about some metadata information about this data set as well, and also where is that particular file. Yes, someone asking question. Hello. So you'll have the metadata information as well, like in sometimes in real time, what we, I mean, they ask is there is a question actually from the interview standpoint, but we will be using a different concept. They'll be asking what is the easiest way or how quickly you can find the number of uh, okay. So, I mean, are you able to hear clearly? I mean, other folks, I mean, Venu, Vasu, I mean, is there any lag in my in voice?
No, no, okay.
It's
You're fine.
fine. Okay. Satish, I mean, can you relog in if you find some difficulty because the other guys are not facing any problem. So, I mean, if you are still facing any problem, you can relog in.
Yeah, okay, I'll try. Right now I will share with you.
Okay. So the question here would be, see, actually, in real time when we work with SAS dataset, we will have millions of records actually. In fact, we will have millions of records. So it's not, I mean, if I ask you a question, how many variables are there in a SAS dataset or how many observations are there in a SAS dataset, you should not open the SAS dataset. Should not open the SAS dataset. So it's instead of opening the SAS dataset and looking at, I mean, scrolling down and seeing how many observations are there in the SAS dataset, what we have to do is we need to read the metadata. We need to read the metadata. We need. I'm sorry, I am muted. One second, one second. Okay, so I mean, so how to browse the metadata of a SAS dataset? How to browse the metadata of a SAS dataset? So we have a procedure called proc contents. So I mean, I'll not talk about in detail about proc contents, but I just want to show you how to browse the metadata of a SAS dataset. I will just show you how to browse the metadata of a SAS dataset. There is a procedure called contents in SAS. So if I write contents procedure on the dataset SAS user.payroll master, then if I execute this program, it will show up all the metadata information of a SAS dataset. When I say metadata information, uh, when it like it will, I mean, it will show up how many observations are there, how many variables are there, when was that file created. If it is modified, then it will show up when it was last modified. So it will show up some information, and it will also show up the list of information, list of variables you have in that SAS dataset. Okay, list of variables you have in the SAS dataset. Uh, so actually, so this is how you browse your metadata. Anyway, we'll discuss a lot of things about proc contents in near future, but at this point in time, I just want to bring to your notice that we can browse only the metadata information as well, only the metadata information. So this is a standard question actually, one of the standard question. How do you find the number of observations and variables? What is the easiest way to find the number of variables and observations? Maybe if you are familiar with I mean SQL, you can take select count of star, but still even this is, I mean, proc contents is still most efficient way instead of using using count of star actually. So anyways, it's not our topic, today's topic. I just want to, we wanted to discuss how to read SAS data sets, how to read SAS data sets from various libraries, right? Now our intention is here, I wanted to read the data from payroll master. So for that you have a statement called set. There is a statement called set. Set is a statement which will help us to read the data from one data set and write it into a different data set or into another data set. Set statement is used to read the data from one data set and write it into another data set. When you say one data set, let's say it is an input data set and write it into another data set. Let's say it is an output data set.
Ram,
Yes,
one quick question.
yes, Kalyan.
Uh, this data sets that you have, are they custom or do they come with the software? Because I don't seem to
Yes,
have them.
they come with the software. What you have to do for that one is you need to click on this help menu and click on learn
Okay.
SAS programming. Once you click on learn SAS programming, all these data sets will come automatically. Okay, you have to click on this SAS program. If I click on this SAS programming, see here, it will ask
Okay, got it.
see the many options you have for SAS training so into something, but you'll have, I mean, if I click on OK, then it will create
Yeah.
all these SAS datasets. When you install these
Okay.
datasets, you won't get, but you need to go to help menu and click on learn SAS programming. Once you click on that, all these libraries and datasets will get created automatically.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So set statement is very important statement. Almost you use regularly. You use regularly on day-to-day basis. You use set statement because we read the data from the existing data set. So in order to read the data from the existing data set, we have to use set statement. So where do we use set statement? Where do we use set statement? We use set statement in a data step. We use set statement in a data step. As you know, we can, I mean, we have only two steps, right? Either a data or proc. You can either use a data step or proc step in SAS programming. So data step is used for creating SAS datasets, right? Data step is used for creating SAS datasets. So let's see the syntax, how to read the data from the input dataset and write it into output dataset. Let's see the syntax. See the syntax. So data followed by output dataset name, output dataset name, and after data statement you have to write set statement. Here you need to mention input dataset name. Input dataset name followed by run. That's it. Simple. So in data, see, you know that data step starts with data statement and it ends with run statement. So in between data statement and run statement, you need to mention the set statement. That's it. Now what it does is it will read the data from this input data set and it will write it into this output SAS data set. So generally, where our input data sets will be stored, these input data sets are stored in the form of libraries, right? So you need to add a library name before to this input data set name. Let's say you wanted to read the data from SAS user. So SAS user is a library, right? So you need to mention library name first. Library name. You need to mention library name, and you need to separate the library name and dataset name with period symbol. You need to separate the library name and dataset name with period symbol. In the same way here as well, you need to mention, I mean, in which library you wanted to save the output. So you need to mention the library name. This is the syntax. Syntax. Okay, let's see example. Let's see some of the examples. Okay. So data, let's say pay. I'm giving just name of the dataset as pay. My output dataset is pay. In the set, I have to mention the input dataset. Where is my data? My data is in SAS user and the name of the dataset is payroll master. So I have to write SAS user dot payroll master. Okay, and run statement. That's it. So now if you observe in this program, in the output data, I have mentioned the output dataset name in the data statement, but I have not mentioned any library name here. If I ignore the library name, by default, all those SAS datasets will be stored in work library. If you don't mention the library name, by default, what will happen is those datasets will be stored in work library, or else you can explicitly mention work dot, not a problem. You can mention work dot. If you ignore that library name, then by default it will store in work library. Let me execute. Just I need to execute the program. In order to execute the program, you need to highlight the program and you need to click on this submit button. Just click on the submit button. Now go to log and see, read the notes what it has done. So we have executed this program. Now it is saying there were 148 observations read from the dataset SAS user.payroll master. It's saying that it read 148 observations from SAS user.payroll master. Means there are total 148 records. There are total 148 records in this data. See here, you have 148 records, 148 observations. So it read all those 148 observations, and see the second line, the dataset work.pay. We created a new dataset work.pay has 148 observations and 6 variables. So it will give us some notes what exactly it happened after executing this script, what it did. It will give us some notes. Okay. And the total time took to run this program is 0.4 seconds. We'll talk about the time later, sometime later, not required at this point in time. Now let's go to work library. Let's go to work library and see whether it created a dataset with the name pay or not. Just click on that. See, you have a dataset called pay. What we are trying to do here, we are trying to read the data from a library, right? We are trying to read the dataset from one library, and we are writing into a different library. Satish, are you facing any problems, or is that fine now?
It's fine now.
Fine. Okay. Let me know if any of you are facing any problems.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Now, but this is not, it's a very simple task, but this is not our job actually. So what we do is, majority of the times, why we use set statement, the reason is, let's say you're working with the credit card related data, and all the credit card related data is in some schema in Oracle database. So we can point to Oracle database and we can create a library. Actually, we can point to your Oracle database and we can create a library. We can point to our Oracle database and we can create a library. And once the data sets are available, what will happen once we connect to Oracle? It creates a library here. In SAS, it creates a library. Once the data sets are available, then we will be using those tables. Okay. Now, let's say for your analysis, let's say in this data set you have thousands of variables. The data set which you are reading, the input data set, let's say you have thousands of variables. And for your analysis or for your reporting purpose, you don't need all those variables. You don't need all those variables. So we need only few variables for our analysis. We need only few variables for our analysis. Okay, generally, you'll see in real time, you'll find SAS datasets with more than, sometimes you'll see hundreds of variables, even thousands of variables as well. When you work on the modeling side of analytics, you'll see thousands of variables as well. So, but for your analysis, you don't need all those variables. So what we have to do is, while reading the data from the input data set, we have to read only selected variables. We have to read only selected variables. Let's say, in this example, let's say you want to do some analysis on gender and salary variable. Okay, let's say I wanted to read, there are total 6 variables in SAS user.payroll master. Now I want to read employee ID, I want to read employee ID, gender and salary. I want to read only these 3 variables from this SAS dataset. From the input SAS dataset, SAS user.payroll master, I want to read only 3 variables. So let's see how to read selected variables from the input dataset. Let's see how to read selected variables from the input dataset. So selected variable, the same syntax. Here what you have to write is there is an option called keep. There is an option called keep. Keep equals to, you have to mention after the input data set name, you have to mention in brackets, you have to mention keep is a keyword, you need to mention the variable names. So I want to read employee ID, so emp id. You want to read gender information from the data set, so gender, and you want to read salary information. Let's say you wanted to create a report only using these three variables, or you wanted to do some analysis across gender, you wanted to do analysis on salary variable. Let's say you want only these three variables from this payroll master. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to read only selected variables. Okay, so if you want to read selected variables, you have to use an option called keep. So keep equals to, you need to mention all the names of the SAS variables, whatever variables you wanted to read. I wanted to read employee ID, I want to read gender, I want to read salary. So you need to mention all those variables. Now let me write here selected variables. So let me execute this program. Now let's go to work library. So now if you look at here, there is a data set with the name selected variables. If I open this library, we'll have only three variables. I mean this data set, not library, this data set will have only three variables: employee ID, gender, and salary. So what we are trying to do here, we are trying to read only selected variables from the input data set. Okay, and let's say you want to read all the numeric variables from this data set. Let's say you want to read all the numeric variables from this data set. See, there are some character variables in this data set. Let's go to, if you look at the properties, how many character variables are there? We have three character variables. Employee ID is defined as a character, gender is defined as character, job code is defined as character, right? Now, if you look at here, there are three numeric variables and three character variables, right? Now what I want is, I want to read only numeric variables. For your analysis, let's say for your analysis, you need only numeric variables. So we can also read only numeric variables. Let's see how to read only numeric variables. Read only numeric variables information, or numeric variables information, what data. So in keep, what you have to do is you need to mention underscore numeric underscore keyword. There is a keyword called underscore numeric underscore. Instead of variable names, you just need to mention underscore numeric underscore. Keep equals to underscore numeric underscore. So what it does is it will read only numeric variables. It will read only numeric variables. So it reads only numeric variables. We have, see, as we discussed yesterday, dates are part of, dates are which data type? In SAS, dates are numeric data type, right? Because SAS stores dates in the form of a numeric tokens. You calculate the number of days from Jan 1st, 1960, right? You calculate the number of days from Jan 1st, 1960. So that's the reason all the dates will be part of numeric variables. Now let me ask you a question. Okay. Okay, I'll ask you a question after explaining. Let's say you want to read only character. Only character. You want to read only character variables. If you want to read only character variables, you have to use underscore character underscore character underscore. Okay, let me execute this program. Here, go to work library. Open that data set. You have only character variables. Employee ID is defined as, at the time of creating this data set, they have defined employee ID as text. They have defined as character. That's the reason it is coming as character. Now, what I want is, I want to read all the numeric variables which lies between, let me, I want to read all my numeric variables which are in between, let's say, in this case, between date of birth and gender. So in between these four, let's say from this variable to this variable, if you have any numeric variables, I mean within the range, if you have any, or else let me go back to, okay, let's look at this file. So you have something called, in this particular file, all, there is student name, course number, paid, course code. When this information is related to training information, when students enrolled for different programs on various dates. So student name, you have course number. I mean course number is nothing but for each course you have to identify each course you have a number, and paid, whether the student paid the fee or not, the status of that, and course code, again you have something called some information related to course, and in which location that course will be taken place when that particular program is being taken place. It's in Dallas, and the starting date, and who is the instructor of that course, and who is the, I mean what is the title of that course, and how many days that training will go, and what is the fee for that course, and the student who enrolled for that program, to which company he belongs to, and from to which company, in the sense here Eastman Developers is the company in which this particular student is working, and you is working in Eastman Developer, and you also have the state in which that company is located. Some, you have some information. It's generally some information. Now, if you want to see the properties, see the properties here. You have some fields as text, and some fields, I mean some of the column, some of the variables are numeric, and some of the variables are character, right? Now let's say you want to read all the numeric variables which are in between student name and days. Let's say you want to read all the numeric variables in between student name and days. So you have course number and numeric variable, begin date and numeric variable, right? So I want to read all the numeric variables within a range. So read only numeric variables within range of variables. It means here what I need to do is, what is the first variable name? It's first variable name is student name, and end one is days, right? Let me here I will write student name. So we have to use hyphen numeric hyphen. Hyphen numeric hyphen is a keyword. It's not underscore numeric underscore. Now here in this case, if you want to read the numeric variables within a range, you have to use hyphen numeric hyphen. Let's say days. So I want to read all the numeric variables in between student name variable and days variable. And these two are inclusive, not exclusive. These two are inclusive. If student name or days are also numeric, then it will read it. Now let me, I'll execute the program. Let's go to work, check the, I mean open the dataset, throw some error. Let's see. See, I mean I throwed some error. The reason, can you tell what is the reason why it throwed an error? I mean throwed an error in the sense it didn't create any dataset. See the table with 0 columns. I mean it didn't. I mean we don't have any data. We don't have data in this dataset. Why? Could you tell me the reason? Where is our data? What is the name of the file? What is the name of the file? All. But what I have given here, I just copied the previous program and I try to, I mean, give that, and it didn't execute. because in this payroll master we don't have these variables. Let's go to log and see what it is saying. Error. Starting variable student name and ending variable days of double dash list does not exist. It will throw some error. It will show up what exactly the error is. Okay. So this is user mistake. I mean, this is my mistake. I didn't write properly, right? So I have to give here all. Okay. Let me re-execute it. Go to work. So you have only the numeric variables within the range of variables. So in the same way, if you want to read character, character within the range, you have to mention character, simple character. Simply you have to mention character. Now all the character variables within the range it will read. Here you have student name, paid, course, location, teacher, course title. Okay.
Hello, Ram.
Yes.
Once can you go to the output?
Yeah, sure. You mean output, right? Yes.
Yeah, log.
Log or output? Log.
Output.
You're talking about which output? Your data set, right?
Right.
Okay.
There in the course code, the numeric is there now already.
No, you have
So
C. It
you
is
can
starting
put
with C. It is starting with C.
Okay.
It's a character.
Okay, got
It's a
it.
character variable. Okay. It's not numeric. It's
Okay.
character.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now what I want is I want to read one numeric variable and all character variables. Or let's say you want to read one character variable, all numeric variables, or part. I mean, you want to read some of the character variables or all numeric variables. Okay. So sometimes what will happen is in a data set, let's say you have something like M2, M1, M2, M3, M4, M5 means all the numeric variables. When you have a lot of numeric variables and you want to read all the numeric variables and you want to read only one character variable. Let's see how to do that. Read all the numeric variables and let's say you wanted to read like student name. You want to read all the numeric variables and student name variable. Okay, let's say you want to read all the numeric and student name variable. So in keep, what you need to do is you need to mention those variables. Student name you want to read and you wanted to read all the numeric, right? So underscore numeric underscore. So in the keep I have mentioned student name followed by underscore numeric underscore. So now what it does is it will read student name as well as all the numeric variables. Let's go to let's open the data. So you have student name and all the numeric variables. I mean, you can read in any combination based on the requirement. Based on our requirement, we can. Now let's say you want to read all the variables starting with student or starting with some particular keyword. Let's say you wanted to read all the numeric all the variables starting with a specific keyword. Read the variable starting with a specific keyword. Read the variable starting with a specific keyword. Let's say I want to read, here my keyword is let's say course. Course is my keyword. Course is my keyword. Let's say course is my keyword. Let me go to dataset and show you. User, all right. Let me click on the property. So do you see any data sets which are starting with course? Here we have course number, course code, we have course title, right? So let's here. So in keep, what you need to mention is just give the keyword course and give colon is the symbol which you need to mention. It means read all the variables from this input file. If it starts with course, read all the variables information which starts with course from this file. So whatever you give here, let's say if I give here a colon, it means all the variables starting with a. So if I whatever keyword you mention here, it will read all the data or all the variables information which starts with the keyword what you have mentioned in that. Let's go to work, click on course keyword. Here you have only the variables which are starting with course. Okay, so this will help you a lot. Let's say you have variables something like, let's say day 1, day 2, some day 3, day 4, or month 1, month 2, month 4, something like that, and you want to read all the numeric variables which are starting with day as well as some other variables. So you can use combination of all whatever based on your requirement. You need to mention all those things in the keep. Any questions so far? Anyone?
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, see, for example, now you're saying that we're selecting some. Let's say now I want to exclude some. For example, I want
Yes.
to, if I have
Yes.
100, I
Yeah.
want
Now
to
that,
only
that is
choose.
next option. Next option. This is we are talking. Next is
Okay,
drop. We'll talk about drop option. Okay. This is keep only to
okay.
read. Yes.
And I
Yes.
had one more thing I wanted to add
Yes.
was,
Kalyan.
is there any way of doing this logically, like, using a logical combine?
Logical combine in the sense.
Like, for example, you're saying this and this, right? So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, can we use logic here, like, like intersection and stuff?
Intersection. I mean, what do you want? Like, tell me. Okay, this is your. Let's say this is your data. What do you want from this?
Like, okay, let me just think over it for a second. Yeah, I'll just
Okay.
get back.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Fine. Now. Yeah. I just want to. I mean. Okay. I'll explain one more. Okay. So let's say you have. Let's say you have whatever you are asked. Let's say we have 1,000 variables, or let's say 100 variables. 100 variables in a SAS dataset. Okay, we want to, let's say we have 100 variables in SAS dataset, and we want to drop unwanted variables. Unwanted variables while reading the data from the input dataset. Let's say you have 100 variables in a SAS dataset, and we want to drop unwanted variables while reading the data from the input dataset. So wherever we have here keep, you have to use drop option. Drop. Let's say data unwanted underscore variables set input dataset is SAS user dot payroll master. Okay, here you need to mention, instead of keep you have to mention drop. Drop equals to which variables you wanted to drop. Let's say I don't want date of birth, as well as I don't want date of hire. Date of higher. Okay, you don't want these two variables. If I execute this, it will not read those two variables information. It will read other variables information. So you have employee ID, gender, job code, and salary. We read the data from this file, so we don't have these variables. So drop is used when we don't want to read the any variables information. So okay, let's say you have 100 variables and you wanted to read 85 variables or 90 variables and you don't want the rest. So instead of using keep, it's better to use drop, because in the keep you have to mention, if you use keep you have to mention that 85 variable names. Instead of keep, it's better to use drop. Okay. Not only that, I'll tell you when to use drop. Now let me ask you a question here. How to calculate age of each employee? Let's say you have date of birth. Can we calculate age? Can we calculate age? Yes, we can, right?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Let's try to calculate age here and see how this drop and keep will help you. So okay, before that, I mean, let me explain you. We can use arithmetic operators, arithmetic expressions. So using arithmetic expressions in a SAS dataset. Using arithmetic expressions in a SAS data set. So when I say arithmetic expressions, so let's say you have a variable called salary and I want to give some bonus. Let's say I want to give some bonus to all my employees. Bonus is nothing but 10% of salary. Let's say 10% of salary. So I can use here all my arithmetic expressions like bonus equals to salary into 10%. So 10 by 100 is nothing but 0.1. So I can use this. Means I can use all my arithmetic operations here like plus, minus, into, divide by. I can use all those things. So what I'm trying to do here, I have a variable called salary in my input data set. On salary, I'm calculating. I'm using 10%. I'm calculating 10% of my salary, and whatever result I get, I would like to store in a new variable called bonus. So bonus is not present in this input data set. Here bonus is a new variable, it gets created, and in this bonus we will have whatever after calculating this, whatever information we get, that will be stored in bonus. So let's let's go to bonus. See, it created a new variable called bonus. So in this example, what it does is it reads all the variables information from SAS user.payroll master. It reads all the information from SAS user.payroll master, and as well as it creates a new variable called bonus. It creates a new variable called bonus. Bonus is nothing but salary into 10%. Now let me go back to the data. Now let me tell you one more example. Let's say for your analysis you need only employee ID. Let's say you need employee ID. In the keep, I'm writing employee ID, I'm writing gender, I'm writing salary. That's it. I'm writing just in the keep, I'm writing employee ID, gender, and salary. And I wanted to execute this program. Can you tell me how many variables will be written into this output data set? How many variables will be written into this output data set? 4. So it is read 3 from input and one new variable bonus. It gets created. So we will have 4. Okay. Now let me ask you one more question. It's a straightforward question. This is not a question. Now tell me. So how many variables it gets created in the output data set? Right?
3.
3.
Employee gender bonus.
Say. I mean, I just want to explain one more point here. SAS always
Only two, right?
employee ID and gender.
Yes,
Or
because
what about
salary has
bonus?
not been used, right?
Okay.
Oh,
Execute.
Salary is not being read, is it?
Yes. See here.
yes.
You'll see the data here.
Mm.
Why we got 4? Why not 3?
There is no salary.
So let's go back to the program. So it is reading two variables from input dataset, employee ID and gender, right? That's fine. And when it executes this statement, it came across with two new keywords, which are not, which we are not reading from the input. So it will treat these two as the new variables. It will treat these two as new variables, and it will show up in this way. Is it correct? Is this output correct? No, right? So so what is important in this code? What variable is important? In the key, which variable we have to mention here? Salary. Without salary,
Salary.
Salary.
we cannot execute this expression, because while reading the data from the input dataset, we are not using that, right? So right here, salary. Okay. Now, if I execute this program, will it execute? Will I get proper output? Yes, we get, right, because it can calculate. Now what I want is, in my output, I don't need salary data. I don't want salary data, because in my output I need only employee ID, gender and bonus information. I don't need salary. So what I need to do? You have to drop. Where you have to use drop? Where should I write drop? See, in my output I need only three variables. I need employee ID, I need gender information, and I need bonus information. I need only these three variables in my output.
Export constraint set.
So we can also use all our keep drop options in after the output dataset name as well. Let me write here drop equals to 7. So while reading the data from this input dataset, so how SAS processes the records? Let me spend some 1 minute time on that. How SAS processes the observations. So how SAS does that? That means first it will pick the first record. It will process record by record, observation by observation. It will first process the first record. And what is the code that we have written here? Keep employee ID, gender and salary. So it will read only employee ID, gender and salary information, these three values. Okay. After that it will execute this statement. So it will pick the salary value, what it read in the first record. Okay, it will pick the salary value and it will execute this statement, and that record will be written into the output dataset. While writing that record into the output dataset, how many variables we have? We have employee ID, gender, salary and bonus, right? We have total 4 variables which we need to, we have to write all these 4 variables in this output dataset. But we have mentioned drop. So what it does, it will drop this variable. See, we are reading 3 variables from the input dataset and we are calculating one more variable bonus. There will be total 4 variables. While writing that record into the output dataset, we have used salary, we have used drop, right? Drop equals to salary. So it will drop this variable information and it will write only these 3 variables information into the output dataset. And again it will go here, it will read the second record, it does the same thing. Again it will go here, it will read the third record, it does the same. It will execute all the statements, whatever you have it here. So SAS processes observation by observation. SAS processes observation by observation. And this is important like this is very important point. See, when we are using any variables in our calculations, make sure you read that variables information. When we are using any variables in our calculation purposes, you make sure that variable is read from the input data set. And later on, if you don't need that variable, then you can drop it by specifying the key, drop option in the after the output data set. And let me go back to all our programs. See, whatever programs we have discussed so far, we have discussed so far, uh, whatever programs we have discussed so far, we can also write all these options like whatever we discussed, this keep, drop, rename. Rename we have not discussed, we'll discuss. We can write it after the output data set name as well. Not only after the input data set name, we can also write all these programs. I mean, in all the programs we have, I mean, in all these programs we have used the keep option after the input data set name, right? We can also write after the output data set name. What is the difference? Here, if you write after the input data set name, while reading itself, it will restrict. If you write after the output data set name, while writing the data or while writing that observation into the output data set, it will filter. So, which is efficient? Which is efficient while writing the data into the output or while reading the data from the input? While reading only.
The input
Reading,
stage itself.
Reading
reading
because
itself.
it is processing wise, from processing time standpoint. While reading itself, if you can restrict, that would be better. Because let's say you have 1,000 variables in a data set. While reading, only restrict whatever variables you want, not while writing. But in this case, in this case, when you are using, even though I don't want salary variable in my output, I have to read it. Why? I am using that variable for in calculations. So when you use any variables in calculations, make sure you read it. Okay. So you can use keep drop combination in this fashion, but you cannot write keep and drop in the same line, the same statement. You cannot write keep and drop. Okay, you cannot write keep and drop in the same statement. Is it clear? Keep and drop option. Okay. Let's see rename option. Rename option. So rename option to change the name of a variable. To change the name of a variable. If you want to change the name of a variable, then we use rename option. When I say name of a variable, what does it mean? Let's say you want to change this salary variable name into compensation, something compensation, or let's say you want to change EMP ID to employee ID. Let's say you want to change, because when people create SAS datasets, sometimes they create they write some short name like ID. So we don't know whether it is an employee ID or customer ID, which ID it is. So we want a complete name. Let's say you want, now in this case, now what we wanted to do is we wanted to change the name of a variable. We wanted to change the name of a variable. So for that we have a rename option. So data, let's say change variable names. So set our input data set is in SAS user dot payroll master, right? Okay, run. You can write here rename, or you can write here as well. You can write here as well. Just you need to rename, right? Equals to rename equals to. Again, you have to open the brackets. First, you need to mention old variable name. Let's say old one is employee ID, EMP ID. And what is the new one? I wanted to give employee underscore ID. So now what will happen is, if I execute this program, employee ID will be renamed to EMP ID will be renamed to employee ID. If you want to change more than one variable, then just you need to again write that let's say you wanted to change salary variable into compensation. Okay. No, let me execute this program. See the data. Earlier it was EMP ID, now it's employee ID. Earlier it was salary, now it's compensation. So if you want to change the names of a variable, you have to use the rename option. Rename. Okay. Using multiple options at a time. You can also use all the options at a time. Let's take this example. Okay, I wanted to rename as well, so I can use the rename equals to, I want to rename the employee ID information. EMP ID equals to employee underscore ID. Here I'm using keep, I'm using rename, I'm using drop. So I'm reading the data employee ID, gender and salary from the input, and I'm calculating a new variable called bonus. And while writing the data, I'm dropping a variable salary, and also I'm renaming the employee ID, EMP ID to employee ID. You can use multiple options at a time based on the requirement. Based on the requirement, we can use all the options at a time. We have EMP ID is changed to employee ID, and we read gender and bonus information. So based on the need, we will use these options. Is it clear? Any questions? Satish?
No, no, no.
Okay. Now, what we are trying to do, we are trying to control the variables using keep, drop, and rename. This is related to see all these options: keep, drop, rename. Did we talk anything about observations? No. All these options are related to variables. So you are able to control your variables using keep, drop, and rename, right? So these are called variable control options. You can say variable control options. Okay. Keep, drop, and rename. Okay. Next, let's talk about from observation standpoint. Let's see what options we can use. Now, let's say you want to read, you want to read, you want to read first 10 records. You want to read first 10 records. Let's say you have millions of records in a SAS dataset, and you wanted to you wanted to read only first 10 records, and you want to see how the data is flowing into variables. Because for our analysis, generally if you try to open any data set with millions of records, your system will hang, and it will take at least 2 to 3 hours to open that data set. Since we will have millions of records and lot of thousands of variables, or let's say hundreds of variables. Okay. For example, let's say you have hundreds of variables and millions of records, let's say, and you are trying to open the SAS datasets. You should never dare to do that, because if you do that, your system will hang, or it will freeze at least for 1 hour or 2 hours based on the size of the data. Now, without opening SAS dataset, the entire dataset, what you do is you try to read part of the data and see how the data is flowing into variables. So for that, you have some options related to observation control options. We call them as observation control options. So those are first ops, first OBS. First OBS means first observation, and we have one more OBS. These are the two options. Using these two options, we can control the observations. Let's say data read first 10 records or 10 observations. Read first 10 observations. Data followed by output dataset name. Anything. I'll give just first 10. Set my input dataset is in SAS user dot payroll master. Okay. Now see, I'm not writing any library name prior to this dataset name. If you observe, I'm not mentioning any library name. So if I don't mention the library name, what will happen? By default, it will go to work library. Okay. Now you have to mention that first OBS and OBS options only after the input dataset name. You cannot write it after the output dataset name. You have to mention only after the input dataset name. So let's write here first OBS equals to 1 space OBS equals to 10. So first observation, first op stands for from which variable, from which observation onwards you want to read the data. Okay. So first ops, from which observation number from which observation number we want to read the data. So we need to mention. In the same way, OBS. Till which observation? Till which observation number you want to read? You have to mention. So if I say first ops equals to 1, ops equals to 10, it means read the data from first observation till 10th observation. So you will have first 10 records. Now let me say here I have written only OBS. Let's say I have given only OBS and I have given here 145. So there are total, how many records in this file? There are total 148. Let's say I have given OBS, let's say, okay, I have given as 5. OBS equals to 5. And if I execute it, any guess what will happen? 125. By default, if you ignore first ops, first OBS or first ops, anything is fine. If you ignore first OBS option, it will read right from starting observation, from starting record. So start first file. This is first file. It will read only 5 records. Okay. Now if I mention only first ops, let's say first ops, if I first OBS or first ops equals to 145, what does it mean? I didn't mention any OBS option, so it will start reading from 145th record till end of the file. Okay, here we have 148 records, so total it will read only these 4. Okay, including that 145. Okay, but in the interview, how we will ask questions is, or when you do sampling, see generally, let me tell you one concept here, because in the interview they will ask this question. They have asked in United Health Group very recently, like 2 to 3 weeks back, this question they have asked. I want to read every 4th record. From this data set, I want to read every 4th record. I want to read every 4th record. Let's say you want to read every 4th or every 5th or every 10th record or something. Okay. Or else you want to read randomly, like 10th record, 20th record, 32nd record, or 43rd record, something. You want to read randomly. So if you want to read randomly or every 10th record or something like that, there is a concept called underscore n underscore. There is a concept called underscore n underscore. It's a automatic variable created by SAS. Created by SAS. So underscore n underscore is an automatic variable created by SAS. So how it creates? Let me explain you. Data some number, or I can say okay, number set SAS user dot payroll master. See how SAS processes the data. SAS processes the data record by record, right, or observation by observation, right? So let me execute this program and explain you. See what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to read all the data from my input dataset payroll master, and I'm creating a new variable called record number, and I'm assigning a automatic variable called underscore n underscore. So what values it contains? What value this underscore n underscore contains? It contains the observation numbers. When I say observation numbers, when it read the first observation from this SAS user dot payroll master, the underscore n underscore will have a value 1. When it reads the second record, underscore n underscore will have 2. When it reads third record, underscore n underscore will have 3. Let me execute this and show you. you'll have.
Is it like, excuse me,
Yes, Kalyan.
is it like an array or an index or
Yes,
something?
we call it as iterative processing. Actually, here it does an iterative processing. It's an like array loop only. Iterative processing. So SAS processes the records iteratively. We call it as iterative processing. So meaning of iterative processing is in the first iteration, it will read the first record. It will read the first record in the first iteration. So how internally it will assume is, see, let's say you have total 148 records in this data set. So SAS processes 148 times. It will pick first when it reads the first observation, and in the first iteration underscore n underscore will have 1. When it reads the second record, it is a second iteration. So in the second iteration underscore n will have 2. Now we have the record number, right? Can we filter now every fourth record from this? How to do that? Any guess? What could be the logic? I want to read every fourth record.
Okay.
I want to read every fourth record. So if I divide that underscore n underscore by 4, if I divide and if the result is 0, is it every fourth record? If the remainder is 0, if I divide any number with 4,
Yeah, you
if the
take the
remainder is
remainder, right?
0, is it every fourth record? Let me
Yes.
Yes.
see here. See 4 by 4, what is the remainder? It's 0.
0.
0.
8 by 4, what is the remainder? It's 0, right?
0.
0.
Now I have to do that. Okay.
Okay.
So how can I do that? So instead of here, let me write that as well. Underscore n underscore divide by 4. Let me show you some reminder. Reminder equals to underscore n underscore divide by 4. Will it work?
No.
No.
Why it doesn't work?
0.
Any guess why it doesn't work, or will it work? Why it works?
Because you've used the divide symbol. Oh, yeah, exactly. You haven't set the.
See, we will not get a reminder, right? We will not
Yeah.
get a reminder if we divide that. We will get, see here, 4 by 4 is 4 ones are 4, 4 twos are 8. So, but what I want is, I want the remainder. I want the remainder. So actually, there is a function called mod. Actually, I mean, we should not discuss at this point in time, but when we talk about functions, we'll discuss in detail. There is a function called mod. Mod stands for modulus. Modulus. So modulus in the sense, when you divide this number with 4, it will return a reminder. Let me execute this and show you. See, I ran, but it threw some error. The reason is, actually I missed. When we use mod function, we should not use divide by. We have to use comma. The arguments we need to pass to this mod function is. This is a standard syntax. We'll see anyway when we talk about functions. Here now see the remainder values. Are there zeros? Right? We need these zeros. Total, how many records we have? 148. 148 divided by 4. 148 divided by 4. So if I need to get in my output 37 records. Right? If we read every fourth record, I need to have in my output data set 37, right? So I'll not create a variable, I just use if. That's it. I'll not use this as well. I'll just write if condition. If mod underscore n underscore by 4, if it is equals to 0, then I want to read that record. Maybe you might not understand at this point in time the if condition and all these things. That's a separate topic. We'll see conditional statements. It's a separate topic. Functions. It's a separate topic. And we discuss all those things, then you might understand. Maybe even though you don't understand, that's fine. At this point in time, see, we have 37 records. If you want to read every fifth record, you have to write by 5. If you want to read every 10th record, by 10. Okay. So we'll see anyways all these things, but in the interview they've asked these questions. I want to read every fourth record. How do you do that? See, when do we use this? We generally, let's say you have 1,000 customers. I have given you 1,000 customers information. I ask you to select some 100 customers information from that 1,000 records, and we wanted to send some. We wanted to design some campaign, and we wanted to give some offers only to those 100 customers. So you should not be biased. You cannot select whomever will you want. Right? You have to randomly pick the data. Randomly pick the data. So we have other techniques as well for random picking. We have sampling techniques. We have a lot of procedures, but this is one way of randomly picking the customers or employees information. Okay. Okay. So we talked about keep option, drop option, rename option, first obvious, and we have seen couple of keywords: underscore, numeric underscore, underscore, character underscore, hyphen, numeric underscore, hyphen, character
Can
hyphen.
excuse me? Can Vasu please mute himself?
And we have seen underscore n underscore as well, right? Is this fine? Okay. Now we talked about variable control options, observation control options. See, what is the funda? We use these two options, the variable control or observation control. We use along with which statement? Set statement. Set is important. Along with set statement, we use these options, right? Along with set statement, we use these options. Set, what is the purpose of set? When we read the data from the input data set, we have to use set statement. So set statement is used to read the data from the input data set and write it into output data set. While writing the data input into the output data set, or while reading the data from the input data set, we use these options and we control the variables and observations. Right? Okay. So let's see how to our next, we can call all these options as dataset options. Which options? Keep, drop, rename, first obvious, we call them as dataset options. Why we call them as dataset options? What is a dataset? Dataset is nothing but a combination of variables and observations. So it's nothing but dataset options. And moreover, you are writing these options either after the input dataset name or after the output dataset name. You can also call them as dataset options. We can also call them as dataset options. Now let's see how to filter the data or read part of the data. Or you can say subsetting the data. All are same. Either filter the data, read part of the data, subsetting the data.
Ram, one quick question.
Yes, Kalyan.
Even and odd, is there any function for that?
No, we don't have any function. We don't have any function for even and odd.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to specifically read every even record or every odd, we have to write a logic for that. Okay. So how do you filter the data? How do you read part of the data, or how do you subset the data? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Let's say you have this payroll master information. Now what I want is I want to read all the employees information who is drawing more than $100,000. Let's say you want to read employees information who is drawing more than $100,000. I don't want to read all these 148 records. Let's say you have millions of records in real time and you don't read all your data. So based on your requirement, you read some part of the data, right? So in this case, I want to read all the employees information who is drawing more than $100,000. Or I want to read all my male population, all the employees who are males. Or I want to read I want to read the employees information who is a male as well as drawing more than $100,000. It can be anything, right? Based on the requirement, we have to read only some part of the data, not all the records, not all the observations. We have to read only part of the data. So that is called, generally we call it as filter the data or reading part of the data or subsetting the data. Means in some textbooks you will see subsetting the data. In some textbook you will see reading part of the data. In some textbook you might see filter the data. How do you filter the data in a data step if anyone asks you? How do you filter the data in a data step using data step? So we filter that using where statement. There is a statement called where statement. So we have seen set, right? Along with set, we have to use where now. Where statement. We filter the data using where statement. Using where statement, we filter the data. Syntax. What is the syntax for that? Syntax. Data output data set name set input data set name. Here you need to write where statement. Run. This is syntax. Okay, and you can use all those options whatever we have discussed. Let's see examples. So I want to read only I mean I for some reason not responding. Okay, anyways, you see here where statement. Let me talk about examples. Data. What I want to read, I want salary. I want to read all my salary information. Read the employees information, or in the employees data whose salary is greater than or who is drawing more than some $100,000 or greater than $100,000. So read the employees data whose salary is greater than $100,000. So data followed by we have to give some name, right? Output data set name salary. Let's say DT some 100,000. Set my input data set is in SAS user dot payroll master, right? Followed by where. What should I write in where? I need to write some the salary value where the salary value is greater than 100,000. So in the input data set, you go to payroll master. So you have the numbers are in, even though it's 100,000, you have to mention the complete number, right? Now what is this? Salary greater than 10,000. Sorry, $100,000 or gender equals to male or salary greater than $100,000 and gender equals to male. What are all these?
Conditional statements.
These are all conditions, right? These are all conditions. So in where statement, what do we use? We use conditions. In where statement, we use conditions. In where statement, we use conditions. Conditions. In where statement, we use conditions. Conditions, right? So in conditions, what do we use? What is this greater than, equals to, and what are all these? Greater than, equals to, less than, equals
Logical
to.
operators.
All these are called operators, right? Operators. So in where statement, we use conditions. We use conditions to filter the data or to read part of the data. Again, in conditions, we use operators. We use operators. We use operators. So there are various kinds of operators, and we use those operators to filter the data. Let's see how to use all those operators. Okay. So operators. So we have various kinds of operators. One is comparison operators, logical operators, and we have other, rest all comes under other operators. So when you talk about comparison operators, we have something called, symbol. We can use either symbol or we can use mnemonic code. What do you mean by mnemonic code? Let me tell you. So less than. So for in either you can use less than or you can use LT. There is a code. You can use LT instead of less than. Less than symbol. Less than equals to. You can use either less than equals to symbol, or you can use, instead of less than equals to, you can use LE. For greater than, either you can use greater than symbol or GT. Greater than equals to GE. For equals to sign, you can use EQ. For not equals to, you can use NE. So these are all comparison operators. These are all comparison operators, and these are single observation comparison operators, or you can say single row comparison operators. When I say single observation comparison operator, the meaning is, see, when I say salary greater than 100,000, what does it mean? What it does is, first it will read the first observation from the input dataset, and it will go to the first observation and we pick the value of salary. 48,126 is the first value. So it will substitute here 48,126, and it will compare with this 100,000. So if this particular condition is true, let's say this condition is true, then that entire record will be written into this output data. Again, it will go to the second record and second observation, and it will pick the second salary value 49,151. Okay, and it will place it here, and it will compare with this value. So that's the reason we call them as comparison. You are trying to compare value with one particular value, right? You are comparing a salary variable value with one particular value. You are comparing. So while comparing, you can use any of these symbols, any of these operators. Either it can be less than or greater than, less than equals to, greater than equals to, or not equals to. It can be anything. But you try to compare with one single value. So we call them as comparison operators. You are trying to compare with some value, right? We call them as comparison operators. Okay. So let's see the examples. Let me execute this. Let's go to work. Here, if you look at the salary values here, all the salary values are greater than $100,000, right? Maybe till now you might be, you might be dealing with Indian banks, so you'll be talking about rupees, right? But I'll be talking in dollars only, because in future you'll work for all the, since you have already worked in Indian bank, but majority of the times you'll get an opportunity with US banks or UK banks or something, so will not use rupees actually. So you have to make the habit of millions, billions, and thousands. Because we'll not use lakhs, crores, all those things. You have to know what is a million, what is a billion, so 100,000. Okay, anyway, that comes with practice, not a problem. But you have to get used to those terms. Why? Because in the interview, if they ask what is the size of your data, what is the maximum size of the data you are seeing so far. You should not say in lakhs, or you should not say in crores or whatever. Say billions and millions. Okay. Okay, so when you see here, what we are trying to do, we are trying to compare what is the variable that we have used in this condition. In this condition, what is the variable I have used? Salary is, what is the type of that variable? Numeric, right? Let's say you are using a character variable. Let's say you are using character variable and you want only male data. So when you are trying to use only character data, you have to make sure when you are trying to compare with character, you have to put it in quotes. In the quotes, you need to mention the value. So in the gender here, if you go to gender, it's a character variable, and whatever value you wanted to pick, or to which value you wanted to compare, each value I wanted to compare, each value of gender I wanted to compare with m. If it is true, I want to read that record, that entire record into output data set. Okay. So in this case, I want to read male, right? So m, I need to pick the value m. And very important thing here you need to remember is values inside quotes are case sensitive. SAS coding is not case sensitive, but values inside quotations are case sensitive. Case sensitive. When I say case sensitive, in the input data, this is our input data. In the input data, in whichever fashion the data is stored, means males are stored using uppercase M, right? So in the same fashion you need to give it here. And you cannot write it here small m. It doesn't work. Whatever data you put it in quotes, that needs to match with the input data values. Because the data inside the quote is case sensitive throughout SAS. It's case sensitive. But whatever code we write here, it's not a case sensitive. You can write either in uppercase or lowercase. You can write it in any case. It's not case sensitive. Let me execute this. So you have all the mail data, right? So if we use here less than, then it will be all the salary values less than $100,000. So I mean, you can also use, let's say you want female data, instead of equals to sign, you can also use those codes, mnemonic codes, EQ. I can also use EQ instead of symbol. Instead of the symbol, I can also use the mnemonic code. M is silent here. We call it as the mnemonic code. M is silent. So you can also use, instead of symbol, you can use code. Okay, let me stop for the day, because I want you people to get SAS software installed on your machine, because going forward our syllabus will keep on getting accumulated, and if you don't practice, you'll understand when I explain you understand. It's not a problem, but unless you practice, it won't be. You'll see when you try to practice, you'll see a lot of errors. Means syntactical errors. You'll miss semicolons, so you will find a lot of errors, right? So I want everyone to get software installed on your machine. Maybe by tomorrow is Saturday, you can come and meet and make sure you get installed all your software, whatever they are required, get installed and start practicing. Okay, we'll continue with this topic tomorrow. Any questions?
Can you share the details? I will practice today.
Yeah, I'll share straight. Give me 1 minute. Some reason this got crashed. Actually, I have to recover. This session got crashed. Let me open up that program. What I have saved, I don't know till which program I have saved. Let me go to till where I have the data. I'm not sure. I think I have all. I have till drop, but
Okay.
I think rename is not there. Rename and first off. So I need to write it all those things, and I'll send it to you. Okay. Okay. Give me some time. 5 minutes.
Ram,
Yeah. Yes, Sriram.
see, in this, while calculating, in bonus.